Good day. We now proceed to SMP 5, Lesson 3. It has three parts. Kaya medyo taas-taas siya. So, here it goes. So, for the objective of this discussion, actually the objective, guys, is for part 1, part 2, and part 3, okay? Define project and project management. Describe the goals of project management. And of course, explain the project phases. So first is define a project. So what is a project? A project is a collaboration of a group of people to achieve goals. It is an initiative that has to be completed within a timeline, an effort that has budget limitation, and a project is a temporary initiative. So another definition of project that encompasses this all is a project is a temporary effort with a defined beginning and end undertaken to meet unique goals and objectives set by an organization. So, example of a project includes developing a new product, effecting a change in organizational structure, implementing a new business procedure, or building roads, building houses, even the degree that you are taking right now, I think that's a project because as you can see in your curriculum, it has a definite beginning and of course an end, first year to fourth year. So probably we'll discuss if mabot na ka og 10 years, di na siguro na project basin lahi na po dagan na imong plano ana, but if niabot na kag 10 years or 5 years, probably that's what you call budget constraint that we're going to discuss later on. So, continuation with what is a project. So, a project has specific output. It is unique and unique. So, first is specific output. When a project is started, goals or specific output are set to both the organization and the project team. These goals are how the organization will judge the success of a project. So I'll just gonna take an example in when you enroll in BSBA, okay, as a project. So before you enroll in BSBA, what was your goal? What was your specific output at the end of 4 years or at the end of every semester? Because project is broken down into semesters, right? Gigmay-gagmay siya. Hindi man pwede diretsuan mo kuha ng pila ka subject in 1 year lang. Agad kayo, 195 to units rather. So a project is a set of tasks to achieve a specific output or your goal. Goal is defined by a set of requirements. So what are the requirements of the project? So when you enroll and when you choose BSBA as your degree, what are the requirements? I believe you need to pass the interview, right? You have to have a grade GPA or general average of at least 83. Another requirement probably when you started the project, when you when you are approved, you have to have your TOR, and the likes, dagan kayo. Or your goal is, the first time you do it is your goal is to get in and then get out with good remarks, get out and in 4 years, humana ka. Delivering the project is akin to delivering the requirements of a goal. So it's true. Output can be physical attributes. So there are different outputs in a project. So physical attributes, maybe if it is building a road, of course, the road. If it is building a house, of course, the house is the output. Or if it is a system or a software system, then it is the system that is used in an organization. It can be a product, a school, you're building a school or a course. It is an intangible process or activity, a party or a concert. Your feasibility study is actually a project. That's why it's called project feasibility. A project is unique. So output is unique, a custom product or process. So a process that produces a recurring output is an operation. So a project is different from operation because a project is time bound, whereas an operation is already a process and then it repeats. So when a project is started, you have your goals. So when a project started, goals or specific output are set by the organization and project team. So these goals are how the organization will judge the success of a project. So if NORSO is the organization, how is NORSO, and then through BSBA, how are we going to judge the success of the output? So when you comply with all the requirements, you do not have violation of prerequisite rule, you do not miss any semester, you pass every subject, and you have a GPA of a certain equivalent to retain in the program, right? What differentiate a project from operational work is that operations are ongoing, like I said a while ago, ongoing and repetitive, while projects are temporary and unique. Okay, so the example I give is your degree. After 4 years of having BSBA, nakagraduate na kag BSBA, di ba tagay mo take na po mo kay ganahan ka mo balik og BSBA mo BSBA na pud ka, di ba? Kung mo BSBA man gani kung kagyapon next time around, lahi na nga major. Oh, di ba karon FM ka or HM. Probably next time if you are HR now, FM na po ka next time. So lahi na po siya ka project actually. Dara siya definite beginning and definite end. It is unique as well for you. So continue. So project phases. A project proceeds in stages. It is not a one action activity. There is what you call project elaboration. Project elaboration is a characteristic of a project that means developing in steps, continuing by increment. You get that? Developing in steps, continuing by increments. Hinay-hinay ba? Increment. An example of a progressive elaboration is when a project scope starts and has a start and end points. Will be broadly described early in the project and made more explicit and detailed as this project team develops a better and more complete understanding of the objective and deliverables. So actually, using your course as a project is a project elaboration. Developing in steps, diba? Na kay first sem, na kay second sem. In a first sem, you have only to get specific subject that is allocated for first sem. Because if you don't, then probably you will have a violation of prerequisite rule. Okay? And then each project has each project phase has a deliverable, a tangible, verifiable work product. So every semester is a mini project actually for you because your huge project is 4 years. So every project phase, your first semester, your deliverable is to comply with all the requirements of your subjects, to pass, not only to pass, but to have an average not below 83, right? For you to be able to retain on your project, on the course, on your degree. So the tangible output is your deliverable is complied all the requirements, get a grade. And each of this phase, there is a formal sign off or what you call acceptance of the deliverables and phase performance review. So that's why if sometimes you miss some deliverable, you have INCs. So muna tayo mong sign off, then you cannot proceed to the next phase because during performance review, it was found out that you did not complete the deliverable. That's why you have to comply. If, let's say, kung balay ni siya, what if wala pa'y atop, ningon na itong panday nga humanana? So, dili na daw aton sa tag-iya, di ba? If nibayad siya contractor para ana. The same with your study. A 4-year project that has phases on it. Okay? And then project scope. This is the definition of what is the project is supposed to accomplish. And the budget is both time and money that has been allotted to the project. Actually, guys, in every project, nandiyo na siya time and money. It has a specific budget. You might say nga, libre man ang tuition. But time is not libre. When you buy load for online class or you pay your bills for the internet, that's not libre, right? Tuition is libre, but not the other things around. Okay? So naadyo na siya time and budget. So that is where the budget, where the scope of the project is. And just like your feasibility, the scope is the limit. Scope is what encompasses the project. Okay? And as you can see also in your, to align this with your curriculum, there is no subject in your curriculum that is not related to or contribute to your improvement as a student in the BSBA program. You don't take calculus or drawing, engineering subject or biochemistry subject, right? Because it does not contribute to your project. It does not contribute to your curriculum. It does not contribute to the program you have taken, okay? So there is only a scope, a limitation within your project. So characteristics of a project. So it has a clear start and end date. I already mentioned this. There are projects that last several years. So for example, yung mga eskwela. But a project cannot go on forever. Walay forever sa project. It needs to have a clear beginning and a definite end and an overview of what happened in between. An overview only on what happened in between. A project is not forever. Second is a project creates something new. So every project is unique. It produced something new. So new student, everyone is unique. Producing something that did not previously exist. Wala pa ka ni-graduate sa una. So karon ni-graduate na ka. So it did not exist before sa imuha. But now, when you graduate, then the project has already created something. A project is a one-time, once-off activity, never to be repeated exactly the same way. A project has boundaries, so this is also synonymous to scope of a project. A project operates within certain constraints, so constraints in terms of time, money, quality, and functionality. And then you as a BSBA student, when you graduate, or within, like I said as an example a while ago, you're not taking any phases of your project or any part of the project that is not related to the project, because that is the boundary of the project. Functionality, you're not enrolled in biochemistry, in calculus, because those are the boundaries of BSBA. Wala na kailabot atong salain. So boundaries. A project is not business as usual. So projects are often confused with process. So project is not process. You might probably ask, pero maprera man yung ginabuhat kanang gaskwela naman mo ga tudlo ra mo kada tuig mo sa mga gyapon yung enroll tudlo hatag grado ana. Sa amo ang end, but for you, it's your project ang pagskwela, not us. Okay? Pasin mo, as an example, aning akong igalit, pasin ka mo, malibog na mo, but no. Inyo man nga project ang pagskwela, di man amo ang. Kami ra ang imuhang resources. Because a project cannot be done by a single individual. It's supposed to be a team. So, I hope we're clear on that, and then wala na may questions in your mind. But if you have questions, comment below. Tar. So, a project is not business business as usual, are often confused with process, like we mentioned a while ago. A process, guys, is a series of routine. Sa mga process na sa mga ha, pero sa inyo ha, project na itong gibuhat sa pag-eskwela ninyo. Predefined steps to perform a particular function, say expense, reimbursement, approval. No. Project is not a one-off activity. So, project is not business as usual. Remember that. A project So there are diverse nature of projects. So project can be big, like the construction of the Hoover Dam, take years to complete and have a humongous budget. It can be small, like your weekend project of installing a pathway in your lawn. Pero po siya small. A project can involve many people, like planning a wedding. Or small project, like very, very small project, like rearranging the photos in your wedding album. You don't need a lot of manpower for that, right? So, but almost always, project are uses teams. So project comes in wide range of shapes and size. Project may involve just yourself if it is just a very, very, very small project. But sometimes even rearranging your photos, you ask the opinion of other people like, okay ra ba ni dire? Bagay ra ba ni dire? Right? So now we proceed to types of projects and boundaries of a project. So I think I already mentioned this boundaries a while ago. So first is types of project. We have traditional, agile, remote, and agency. So traditional project, these are run sequentially in phases. These phases are typically initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and closure. Most high-cost infrastructure projects make use of traditional project management. Traditional project management is actually what I am going to discuss with you as we go along, okay? Or more on inclination na to during a discussion is the traditional. Agile project. These are used mainly in software development. They are people-focused and adaptive. They also typically have short turnaround times. So dali ra kaayo. Next is remote project. Remote project management is usually used by distributed teams that seldom meet in person. Handling freelance contributors is an example of a remote project. Just like online, those who work online, they are given certain project, and then another person is also given certain project. This is what you call remote projects. Agency project. Agency projects are outsourced to an agency that is likely to have project with multiple clients, like marketing, designs of the project. These are commonly outsourced to agency, like marketing. So these are outsourced. And then the boundaries of a project, the scope, there are scope, schedule, resources, people. These are the limitation of a project. So every project operates within certain boundaries called constraints, like we mentioned a while ago. So let's just elaborate on this. All of these project constraints depend on what the project aims to achieve and when. So every project has different constraints, but the usual constraints is on scope, schedule, people, and resources. The outcome of a project results in deliverables. Anything that's produced during the project development, such as documents, plans, and project reports, are considered a deliverable. Like kamo, inyong mga deliverable nako sa kanira nga, if SMP 5 is a project, your deliverable for me is your assignments, the result of your quizzes, your activities. Ba? A deliverable may also be the result of the project itself. So if the project is a project of creating a new system, then the deliverable is a system. Having a final deliverable as well as a finite time span distinguishes project management from business as usual. The business as usual operations. This has been repeated. Since projects are likely routine operation, most people involved are those who usually don't work together. An example for this is your activity. You don't usually work together. A project naman, project activity, or your feasibility study, you don't usually work together from first year to fourth year. No. Karon ra mo ana nagkita siguro ng uban. Sometimes the professionals involved in the project will come from different organizations, or come from different backgrounds, or come from different geographies. If the desired outcome is achieved on time and within budget, a project is considered to be a success. So in your feasibility study or in your feasibility study project, if your desired outcome within budget, within time constraint, within schedule constraint, within people constraint. What are the other constraint? Scope, dagan pa ani ang people, aside sa under sa people is lagyo kay mong lugar, ang uban wala diri sa Negros Oriental. So those are also your constraints. But if nahimo ra gyapon ninyo with even with despite these constraints, then the project is a success. So project management, like I said, I will thoroughly discuss the traditional types of projects. So here it is. So first we have project management. Is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques in order to meet the project requirements. In every project management, there is what you call project manager. So the project manager is person responsible for ensuring that the project is successful and integrates the project management process of initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing of the project. On a very basic level, project management includes all this, the 5 process groups. Many different types of project management methodologies and techniques exist, including traditional, waterfall, agile, as I mentioned a while ago. Project management is used across industries and is an important part of the success of construction, engineering, and IT companies. Even for us, actually, we really want to meet our goal and objective nga, like finishing a semester without failure, creating this project, and then tarungon na dyan na siya. It's not only the IT or the engineering or the construction can use this. We can actually use this. So using tools, techniques at each stage level to deliver the project. So application of these tools, techniques in the performance of the process to deliver the requirements in every process group. So in initiation, in planning, in executing, closing, and controlling. So the first is, of course, initiation. Initiation is when clear description of the project objective are developed, including the reason why a specific project is the best alternative solution to satisfy the requirement. Like, ano mga BSBA? What have you described or what are your objectives developed during initiation? The reason why this specific project of 4 years being BSBA, not engineering, not accountancy, not BS Chem, not BS Math, not whatever, not a pilot or what. So may yung nakita. Diba? So at this stage, the first phase of project life cycle is called project initiation. Or here, a project officially launches. It is named and a broad plan is defined. Goals are identified along with the project's constraints, risk, shareholders. At this point, shareholders decide if they want to commit to the project. So definition of goal, pare-pareha siyang meaning. Actually, the number 1 is I get it online, and then the second meaning is from the guide that we have. Definition of project goal, name project sponsor, clear approval, definition of project scope, business areas impacted, start and finish dates, cost projection, and benefit commitment. So ikatuning nagsugod-sugod mga makuha mo BSBA, unsa man inyo nang huna-hunaan nga mao jud ni inyong paon be. What are the goals identified by you? What are the constraints? What are the risks for your shareholders? Imong mama, imong shareholders, ang eskwelahan, those are also your shareholders. The risk is, what if I fail? What if I do not pass the interview? What if my grade is so low? So you might probably have already this in mind during the initiation stage na mag-BSBA jud mo. Huna nakauna-huna mo nga inyo din sugdan, di ba? So, during the initiation stage, initiating includes the following project management process. There are 2. Develop project charter. Develop project charter. This process is primarily concerned with authorizing the project, or in a multiple phase project, a project phase, it is the process necessary for documenting the business needs and the new product. service, or other result that is intended to satisfy those requirements. This chartering links the project to the ongoing work of the organization and authorizes the project. Projects are chartered and authorized external to the project by the organization, a program or portfolio management body. That is the first inclusion of the initiating stage. Next is develop preliminary project scope statement. So preliminary scope, your bounds, your boundary of the project. This is the process necessary for producing a preliminary high-level definition of a project using the project starter. Sorry, project charter I mentioned a while ago, with other inputs to the initiating process. This process addresses and documents the project and deliverable requirement, product requirement maybe, boundaries of the project, methods of acceptance that can be accepted in project, and the high-level scope control. In a multi-phase project, this process validates or refines the project scope of each phase. So pareha na inyong pag-eskwela 4 years, diba? Daghan man siya, multi-phase man na siya nga project, diba? Kay in a year, you have 2 semester. In a semester, na ipipila ka subject. In a certain project, na ipipila nga kinahanglan ninyong deliverable, diba? So, pagsugod pa lang, yung nahuna na ninyo nga, dapat, muna akong scope, muna ako ang project scope of each phase of my subject, of my semester, of my year. First year mo ni dapat, second year mo ni dapat. Diba? Aware na mo, ana. You might not writing it down thoroughly, but at the back of your mind, it's there. In your subconscious, it's there na dapat dili ko mahagbong, dapat ako i-complete ng requirements, dapat makat-on ko, dapat mo submit ko on time, kaya parang wala ka deduction. Inyan na siyang yun na huna daan, sa initiation palang daan. Okay? Next. So, you have already initiated it. Now you plan your roadmap. Your roadmap actually is your curriculum. You already know that. Planning is where the project management plan is created. This is where the project team will identify, define, and mature the project scope, project cost, and schedule the project activities that occur within the project. So, planning, a roadmap that will guide teams from creating a project plan throughout the project's execution and closure phases is developed comprehensively during the planning stage. Deadline must be set and resources must be allotted. Breaking down tasks into smaller, manageable activities makes it easier to manage project risk, cost, quality, time, and so on. At the same time, breaking down tasks into digestible pieces will empower everyone involved to accomplish the project on time and stay within the budget. So, what do you understand about that? If it is your, balik-balik lang taan ni imuhang kurso, di ba, breaking down, imagine guys, if you finish your degree in just 1 year or 3 months, and supposedly 4 years siya or 5 years if you're an engineering student, what are the risks of this? What are the risks of its output, its quality? It may be costly, yes, but what about quality? Among other things, if it is not breakdown into something digestible. Imagine magdungan ang BIP SMP 1 to 5. How are you going to digest information and interrelate it? Or magdungan ang tanan yung major sa FM o HRM. How are you going to interrelate it if it was not breakdown into small digestible pieces? Maglisod pa manggani anang gi-breakdown na malimtan manggani samot nagogidunganon, di ba? So that's on planning. So planning includes some but not all of the following project management processes. So like initiating, there are also project management processes that are included in planning. But like I said, some but not all projects have this. First is develop project management plan. This is the process necessary for defining, preparing, integrating, and coordinating all subsidiary plans into a project management plan. The project management plan becomes the primary source of information for how the project will be planned, executed, and monitored, and controlled, and even closed. So another is scope planning. Scope planning. This is the process necessary for creating a project scope management plan that documents how the project scope will be defined, verified and controlled, and how the work breakdown structure will be created and defined. Lastly, scope definition. This is the process necessary for developing a detailed project scope statement as basis for future project decisions. So like I said, these project management processes may not or may be included in some project. Like not all have this, but some have this also. Okay? So next stage is execution. Now you have already initiated it. Now you already planned it. Initiation and planning are useless without executing it. So execution na to. Execution is when the project team starts coordinating people and resources as well as integrating and performing the activities of the project in accordance with the project management plan. So project plan is implemented during the project execution phase. So kung nagtukod kag balay, gatukod na kag balay, gasugod na kag purmas pamalay. If it is your degree, gasugod na kag eskwela. So at this point, teams will work on the deliverables to ensure that the project meets the necessary requirement. Everyone usually gathers for a meeting to mark the official start of the project, where teams can be acquainted with each other and discuss their roles in the success of the project. Actually, your classmates also are part of the success of your project in graduating because they makes you happy and sad at the same time. They makes you happy if they cooperate well in your activities and the outcome is good grades, and they make you sad and frustrated if they are just a free rider. What is a free rider? Nakagradong mo lagi buhat. Ang dami-dami dyan. Not all, but some. And then modes of communication and project management tools are identified before the project plan is executed. So mode of communication, because it's important to communicate and document. This has already been discussed, documentation in SMP 4. So I believe everybody has an idea on it already, that every step of the process in the organization and everything in the organization should be documented for reference. In case there is something wrong along the way, you can go back to your documents. So execution of all plans, activity, cost, resources, testing, implementation, and then quality assurance if ever. Again, during execution includes project management processes. Direct and manage project execution. This is the process. Direct and manage project execution is a process necessary for directing the various technical and organizational interfaces that exist in the project to execute the work defined in the project management plan. The deliverables are produced as outputs from the processes performed as defined in the management plan. So, what is defined in the management plan, mutoy inyong buhaton. Di mo pwede magsimang-sima. Kung ang engineer ni ingon nga inani ang plano sa balay, mo na siya mong i-execute. Kaya the project manager will be, dili man ang panday ang balangisdan ni client so tag-iya nga pahimos balay, si manager, si engineer man. So man ka engineer, di man mo nga itong isabutan. So whatever is the plan agreed by the project manager, by the project, the client, and the owner, and the project head, muna siya i-execute. So kamo, kung atong nasabutan is mauni siya, muna siya yung i-execute. Like, you have to watch first the video before you comment. Pila na gibalik-balik. Ante magmugna ra gyapon mo ending himaya karay na inahan sa kaluoy, 'di ba? It creates chaos. So, you already agreed on the modes of communication. Make sure you execute what is being agreed. Okay? So next is performance quality assurance. This is another execution project management process. So performance quality assurance, this is the process necessary for applying the planned systematic quality activities to ensure that the project employs are processed and needed to meet requirements. So quality assurance. Acquire project team, necessary process for obtaining the human resources needed to complete the project. You are not going to get someone who does not know how the project should be executed. Okay? You don't get a computer engineer to panday the balay. So that's for execution. Next is monitor and controlling. This is when project performance is observed and measured regularly to identify variances from the project management plan. This also includes controlling changes and recommending preventive action in anticipation of possible problems. So I'm gonna give this an example in SMP 5 nga subject ninyo as a project, ha? Kanang course, kaning subject. How am I going to monitor and control you? By giving you, we already have the activities and the intended output. So how are you going to measure your performance? Giving you quiz, giving you assignments. What am I going to do in order to preventive action in an anticipation of possible problems na mahagbong mo aning subject? Sometimes, mo send ko message sa inyo nga walay na sulod. Mingon, ma'am, done. Na may gibutang dito sa assignment. But nothing was actually inserted or attached na file. Or I will ask the volunteers, asa naman ni si Kuan? Wala palagi na siya naka-take ani. So these are ways in preventing or preventive action nga dili ninyo mahuman ang project. Okay? The project monitoring and controlling phase happen at the same time and as the execution phase. It's the job of the project manager to oversee operation and make sure that everything is headed in the right direction according to plan. So there are scope change management, verification, schedule control. Schedule control that we have in this subject is your activities, the list of activities nga gihatag na ninyo daan. Risk review, kamo mag-review mo, kanus ako mahagbong, diba? Or what are the things that they have to do in order to minimize the risk of me failing this subject. Quality assurance is when the output of your projects and your activities are good. Okay? And then, aside from overseeing the project performance done by the project managers have to monitor resources as well. The manage risk if there are any, samot if dako na kayo ang risk. Head status meeting, you have to meet. Reports, among other. If an unforeseen issue arises, the project manager may have to make adjustment to the plans as well as the project schedule. This happens almost always kana mag-construct og dalan yung sig-ulan-ulan. Kanang project manager ana magsige na sila kusog sa ilahang project schedule and adjustments. Kaya dili man sila makatrabaho sige yung sig-ulan-ulan, iba kay sige kaunsa ng iyang mga saminto. Okay, taligsik yung ulan niya. Pareha karon dagan gayapong widening sa atong road. Sahay walay trabaho kay sige ulan kusog ulan so may trabaho mahimo. So the project manager of that subject the project manager of that certain project will have to make adjustments of the plans. In controlling, na po tayo ginatawag og project management process. Here are two. Duara ni siya. Monitor and control project work. So this is the process necessary for collecting, measuring, disseminating performance information, and assessing measurement and trends to effect process improvements. This process includes risk monitoring to ensure that risks are identified early, their status is reported, and appropriate risk plans are being executed. Monitoring includes status reporting, progress measurement, performance reports provide information in the project performance with regards to scope, schedule, cost, quality, and even risk. And then integrated change control. So this is a process for controlling factors that create change like ulan. But this change makes sure that it is beneficial in determining whether a change has occurred and managing the approved changes. So i-manage pa ang change nga dapat i-change sa certain project or within the phase of the project. This process is performed throughout the project for project initiation, from project initiation to project closure. So actually, there are integrated change control. There are changes within the project. But however, these changes in the project are controlled. Na dili siya musimang on what is firsthand on the project management plan. Lastly, is closing. Closing includes the formally ending all activities of a project or a project phase. Hands off the completed product to others formally establishes that a project or project phase is finished. Closing, final phase of the project management life cycle known as project closure phase. Isn't as simple as delivering the output itself actually, guys. Project manager have to record all deliverables, organize documents in a centralized location, and hand over the project to the client or the team responsible for overseeing its operation during the project closure phase. Not only that, but teams come together for a final meeting to discuss the insights they've learned and to reward the hard work of each member. You have to celebrate. If you let a contractor build your house, and then hapit na siya mahuman, and then pag hapit-hapit na siya mahuman, mga 3 days na lang, suroy ka sa balay. Then yun, pag suroy ni mo dito sa balay, na kayo nakita ng something wrong. Ni crack lagi ning semento. Pag nihiwi lagi niya mong balay, pag dili dyan siya tarong nga pagkatukod ko, nga naman eh. Kana siya nga, before na siya sa closing, like I said, muna ningon siya nga, is project closure phase isn't as simple as delivering the output itself. Even if 3 days na lang na siya mahuluman na ang balay, if paglantaw ni client nga, ni crack lagi ning bongbong diri engineer, naon sa man ni, di po ni ampaw ni, di po ni kabilyaan ni numero 1. Even if 3 days na lang na siya, dili na ma-deliver or the project is not closed because the client sees that there is something wrong within the project. It is a question of quality and control. So even if 3 days has passed and dapat i-turn over na siya, if di na siya dawato ni client, dili na siya ma-close ang project because client sees that there's some anomalies within the project. So the client will not accept that house. Rather, the engineer or the project team should go what they call back job. We have to fix it because the changes or kanang changes nga fix niya, controlled change man na siya. Ni crack man siya, wala man na siya ilabot sa inyong kontrata nga dapat nindot nga balay ang output. Paningon nga nindot nga balay with crack wall. So even if it's on this end line, it's not still simple as that. We have to make sure that everything is online. Okay? Parihira gunang maka sa inyong grado good. Maskin pag humana na mo SMP 5, pero INC mo, wa gyapon mo ayo, di gyapon mo ka-proceed into the next level. Because you miss something. The deliverables intended was not delivered. So you have to go back. Have a back check. Okay? Closing includes, again, project management processes. There are 2 only: close project, contract closure. So if it is a contract closure. So close project process necessary to finalize all activities across all the process groups to formally close the project or the project phase. Contract close. This is the process necessary for completing and settling each contract, including the resolution of any open items and closing each contract applicable to the project or a project phase. So sa katong balay, if gi-backchab dato ni project head or ni engineer, then okay na within let's just say na extend siya a month. Then within a month, satisfied na si client, na-fix na ni engineer, okay na, quality control, waste control, check na, okay na, everybody is happy. Then, close the project. Closure of the contract closure. Okay na siya. So that ends part 1. Let's continue with part 2.